It's absolutely fabulous to have you here, but you've been here since Saturday.
Yes, yes. Been running around all over the place.
You were taking full advantage of everything that was going on. It was great to have you here at your first ASU+GSV Summit. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I got the chance to meet some incredible people along the way, some amazing educators doing great work across the country.
So talk about how did you go from the NFL to being a startup founder of a hot AI company, helping kids and people tell their stories. What's sort of the journey? How did that happen?
Yeah, so happened a little bit in phases. I mean, I came out of college, I had my business degree. You very quickly realize once you're in the NFL how much of a business it is. And having to navigate that.
It's a really good business.
Yeah, they make a lot of money, but you also have to navigate the contracts, and you turn into a business yourself. From there, started a media company, started a publishing company, focused on creating access and opportunity. Realized that we were having a lot of success with the creators we were working with, but it wasn't a scalable business. It was very capital intensive, long production timelines, and we were trying to solve how do we actually make this more effective and efficient. And we realized we could do that using AI, and that was part of the foundation of Lumi. But the other side of it is I spent 10 years building a nonprofit, doing work in the education space, working in communities across the country, and that merged with what we were doing on the storytelling side. And then being in the startup space, have been angel investing since 2017, have advised venture firms, deployed millions of dollars in capital on that side, and sat on boards as well. So all of those things kind of came together, led to the founding of Lumi and being in the position to be able to sit here and have this conversation now.
That's awesome. So very few people probably know this about you, but you were a 4.0 student at the University of Nevada, and I honestly don't know that I know any Division I football players I've ever known that were 4.0. Nothing to get, by the way, it's a full-time job. I mean, to get a 4.0 and play Division I sports in football, that's amazing. So academics is always important to you.
Extremely important. And one of the things that most people don't know, and I don't know how much I've even shared this publicly. I came up in magnet schools. In high school, I graduated with a 4.5. I realized though, or actually was told after the fact, the one scholarship I got for football, part of the reason they gave me that scholarship was because they knew they didn't have to worry about my eligibility. That
wasn't true with me.
But in that process, what I realized is there's a lot of different struggles that players go through on that side. I had tutored some of my teammates to make sure that they were eligible, and oftentimes it was just a disconnect in relation to how material was presented to them, what teacher they had, and how that teacher engaged with them. So being able to have some of that foundation, very quickly that became a way to organize players and make sure that they were on the right track as well.
And then talk about the experience you had in the NFL. So you rapidly became a star and used the platform not just in very successful on the field, but also when did you see kind of what inspired you to kind of take a stand? Is it related to taking a knee?
Yeah, I mean we have all seen the injustices across the country. We know we've seen those historically. As we think about the lead up to 2016, we had seen a wave of very, very graphic, very open, and well documented and recorded police killings. So on top of all of the other injustices, we had Mario Woods in San Francisco executed by police on the street. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, what can I do to actually begin to change this? And then following that, we saw Alton Sterling killed. We saw Philando Castile killed. And it felt like there was not a lot of movement in relation to actually addressing this at scale across the country. And I was just looking, how do I do my part in this? I now know the issue. I've done the research, I've done the studying behind it. So how do I actually have an impact? And that led to that moment. And since then, we follow up. I mean, we've built a foundation around it. We've built a foundation around it. We've done work in communities across the country, organized communities. We've launched legal defense initiatives post-George Floyd. We've deployed millions of dollars during COVID to help support communities during that time period. We've launched an autopsy initiative to help give free autopsies to people who have lost a loved one killed by police. So we look at, yes, the protest is important, and that work is important, but also all of the follow-up things to actually have real impact and sustainable impact over time. I think those become incredibly important.
So let's talk about Lumi. So how did the idea come about? What was sort of the inspiration that had you start this, and kind of what's the dream?
Yeah, the start of Lumi came out of going back to the publishing and media company. We had projects that were outperforming expectations on a consistent basis. What we realized, though, as I was sitting in the business owner's seat, it was taking about 2.5 years, and this is very standard, 2.5 years from contract signed to a book being released. Now you can think about this, a 40-page children's book taking 2.5 years to get out the door. That feels very wild in my mind that it takes that long. The other part is that's typically a 5 or 6 figure investment. So on the tail end of that, it typically takes 12 to 18 months to become profitable. So we're looking at 3.5 to 4 years to be able to get to the next story and be able to reinvest those dollars. So we just weren't able to scale the stories and the impact that we wanted to have. So we realized we could actually address that with AI to be able to help reduce the production time and reduce the production expense and allow more people to be able to tell their stories and do that at scale. Now, the other piece that came into the fold is we realized this is a great tool to be able to drive student engagement, to be able to help with literacy, and to be able to start training AI skills in our students and in our communities. And then on the other side of that, it's a great way to start introducing AI to teachers and getting them up to speed on it, how they can implement it in their classroom, how they can use it with their curriculum. So really using it as a great on-ramp to be able to build those future-ready skills in our students and advance our teachers. When we think about this long-term, really our vision is how do we turn an individual student or creator into Disney? They can tell a story and create a story end-to-end. They can publish that and distribute that out into the world. They can also merchandise that and have a full ecosystem of support. And that is what we're building towards and running towards.
That's awesome. Specifically with AI, talk about more how the AI helps the student create and tell their story, and then talk about how it works with the teacher.
Yeah, so we have built a whole workflow through this to help students along the way. So it's everything from character development to character creation and creating the actual image, doing the research, doing the brainstorming, pulling that into their script and getting to a final script, creating all of the images, and today that is turned into a comic, graphic novel, or manga. We'll expand that out over time as far as the mediums, but our initial introduction is we tell students to come in and create a character. And typically they'll come in and they'll say, hey, I want to create a black man with an afro in a suit. And that'll be their entry point. But what we follow up with is, well, tell us about this character's personality. Tell us about their backstory. Tell us about their motivations. And in that process, we're actually able to get students to read, we're getting them to comprehend, we're getting them to engage, and actually apply that knowledge. So we're able to get them into some of the higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy. The other part is our hook for students is once that first image of a character pops up, they now have ownership, and they see it come to life in a very real way. And that drives everything else in the process, where now they want to dive into the research. Now they want to dive into the outline, because now they have their character that they're going to get to take on this journey. And we're seeing this show up in incredible ways. I mean, we have some students who are creating Pokemon armies to be able to tell their stories. We have others who are using it in history class and telling the story of Marie Antoinette's lavish lifestyle and relating that to Birkin bags today. And we're also seeing it show up in the social emotional way with students. We had a student come up, we were doing an on-site with one of our partners in Newark, and came up in front of everybody and said, I have a story about a magic fork. Now, we had a visiting district. I didn't know the story going in advance. I was a little nervous when I heard magic fork was the story. But the student told the story that this magic fork allowed him to transport to different times and different moments. And it was all centered around food and family and community. Now, what the student shared after the fact was that magic fork represented his mother. What he also shared was his mother had died 5 years earlier. He had not shared this with anyone in his class. He had not shared this with his teachers. He had not shared this with the principal. This was the first time they were hearing this. So even when we think about how students are showing up in the classroom and the insight that a teacher can gather just by giving a student the space and opportunity to tell their story, all while relating it back to the curriculum, like their relationships are changing, and that engagement and interaction in the classroom is changing. So we're starting to see that impact show up in multiple ways on the student side. To cross over to the teacher side, the piece we've heard from teachers over and over, and we did not start here as far as how we're approaching things, but we did an AI summit with one of our partners in New York last fall. I'm not sure if Gary is here. Oh, Gary. Everybody give Gary a round of applause. So Gary and his partner over there, Sean, doing amazing work in New York. When we did an AI summit with them last fall, one of the things that they were focused on is how do we actually shift culture and drive culture and get people excited about AI and how to use it. One of the things that we walked away from that summit with is teachers actually don't have a lot of support in engaging with new technology. Oftentimes they're thrown a new tool, you'll do an onboarding, that's the level of support you get, and go figure out how you're actually going to use that in your classroom. So what we actually do with our teachers is after we do our onboarding, we do bi-weekly meetings with our teachers to make sure that they have support in the process of integrating new technology into the classroom. So they know how to use AI, they know how to incorporate that into their curriculum, and they know that they have support along the way. And we've seen great success there and just a different level of engagement with teachers because now we are partners in this as opposed to us throwing a tool their way and telling them to figure it out.
So what's tougher, being an NFL quarterback or being an ed tech startup entrepreneur?
They're both difficult, but it's a little bit easier when you don't have someone 300 pounds running after you.
What have you taken from the experience you had playing sports? You were a great baseball player as well. And how have you applied that into being a business person, being an entrepreneur?
Yeah. There's a couple things that stand out to me. The first thing that is the most critical is you can have the best game plan in the world, but if you don't have the right people on that journey with you, it does not matter what you do. It does not matter how good your game plan is. You have to have the right people on that journey with you. So making sure that you have the right people in the right places. We have Stefan over here, our head of engineering. He is the cog that makes everything happen within Lumi. So shout out to Stefan. And making sure that those people are in place is one piece of it, and the most critical piece. The second piece that I've taken away is just the discipline to show up every day. One of the things that I've found, both on the football side and sports side more broadly, as well as on the startup side, you are going to get kicked in the face. Like, you're going to have the moments that you're like, I just have to take this L, and I have to keep moving forward. And in those moments, I think the piece that is most important is when you do have those losses, you still have to show up. You still have to put that work in. And knowing that those same people that you need on your team and have to be in the right places, they're also depending on you to show up, even when things are the hardest. And they need you to show up actually more when things are the hardest. When things are easy, everybody loves doing it. Everybody wants to be on the team. When things get a little more difficult, that's when character shows up. That's when discipline shows up. And that becomes critical. And then the last piece is, how do you actually just build a culture that continues to move forward together? I've been on great teams. I've been on teams that have not been so great. One of the things that I think stands out to me the most about great teams is it is never the people that are the problem. The problem is the problem. And I think collectively the culture that we try to build within Lumi is, hey, when we have something wrong or if we make a mistake, like, we're just going to figure out what the solution is. Like, we don't need to point fingers in the process. And we actually, hey, go out and be bold. Like, you should make mistakes. If we aren't making mistakes in the process, our aspirations actually aren't great enough. So being in a space to be able to accept that there are going to be failures, and when those show up, our job is to say, okay, what is the root cause of that failure, and how do we solve it, and do that as quickly as possible.
So how do you view success for Lumi? I mean, what sort of the measures that you are looking for? I mean, the magic fork stories. How many? I mean, what are kind of the things that you look at as being, say, okay, we really nailed the opportunity or what we were trying to achieve?
Yeah, I think we think about that a few different ways. I mean, the first one, going back to some of the things we're focused on the student side, student engagement is a critical one. Right now in Newark, we're seeing increased attendance. That is incredible. We want to make sure that if we can replicate that in every district that we show up in, that is a huge win for us. The second is if we can help improve literacy rates. Like, we want to see more kids reading at grade level and reading beyond grade level. And if we can help them in that process, that is a huge success for us. And that third one is making sure that our students and our communities are set up for success with AI. AI is either going to be exponentially gap closing or exponentially gap widening. So how do we make sure that our students and our communities are at the forefront of that? Because that ultimately will lead to economic mobility, it will lead to opportunity, and more broadly lead to prosperity in our communities. So we want to make sure that we are at the forefront of that. And then more broadly, we want to make sure that we're turning individuals into Disney, being able to tell their stories. And we think that is critically important because it is a way that we understand each other as people. It is a way that we're able to relate to each other. And more broadly, when we look at that, the societal impact of being able to understand each other and understand perspective and each other's cultures and stories and languages, like, that is the future that we want to be living in.
So who are your heroes?
You said heroes?
Heroes.
Oh. I mean, one of my personal heroes, Malcolm X. He is someone that changed my trajectory, changed my thought process. Reading the autobiography, being able to build the relationship with some of his family members and daughters, that has been life-changing for me. So when I think about the ability to constantly seek truth and be unwavering in doing that and fighting for a better society, fighting for a better world, a more equitable world, that to me is something worth waking up for every day and chasing.
So you've got some great, you've raised $4 million since the start with some great investors.
Yes.
And we'll talk about some of the investors you have, and then talk about what your future plans are for bringing in new investors.
Yeah, we have raised $4 million to date. 776 is our lead investor. Shout out Harry from the 776 team today. Harry is also the one who made the introduction to Claire to be able to make all of this happen. So, hey, Claire. Shout out, Claire. And KPOR and Pellet Ventures are also two of our institutional partners. We have some great angels there as well. Mitch and Frida on the KPOR side have been incredible partners on this journey. And on the capital side and where we're going now, I mean, we have a lot of great traction in school districts. We've had some great conversations this weekend with investors. And now we're looking at what capital should we be bringing on to help us grow and scale as a company and grow and scale the impact that we're having now.
So are there any ways that people in this room can help the company? And what kind of partners are you guys looking for to accelerate the business?
Yeah. So obviously on the venture side, we're always looking for great partners there and always open to conversations. Superintendents, school districts, those are our key partners right now, and the way that we get introduced to teachers and the students. So all the superintendents out here, I know Gary and Sean, we've had a lot of conversations and been building. And more broadly, one of the things that we're looking at, especially in this moment, is all of the work we do, we focus on showcases at the end of the year. So part of those showcases are a way to bring the community together, including parents. So we are looking at where philanthropic partners, where corporate partners can come in, help support our school districts, and help us drive this impact and these outcomes for our students and our teachers.
That's awesome. Last question. So leave us with one final thought, what you'd like to share about Lumi, about you, about what, where you want to, what you want to, what kind of biggest legacy you could create. What is it? What does that look like?
I think the biggest legacy that we can leave, and what I hope to leave, is that we have fundamentally changed what communities look like, how we relate to each other, and ultimately what the economic conditions look like for every individual within those communities. That sounds very ambitious when we say, hey, we're an AI storytelling company, but we don't look at it solely as that. If we are able to help bring people along in this process and help change perspectives and be able to build the right partnerships and alliances along the way, that will fundamentally change the opportunities for our students, the opportunities for our teachers, the outcomes that we can get there, and change the landscape of society. So for us, as we all sit here in this room today and have this great opportunity to be together, one, we would love to be able to find ways to partner with all of you and help drive these outcomes. But two, as you return back to your communities, as you return back to your jobs and to your families, think about the ways that you can help drive impact, whether that is in your job, whether that is with community work, whether that is within the relationships you have. Collectively, for us to be able to create the society and the trajectory that we want to be on together is going to take all of us doing that work on a daily basis.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.